guys, welcome back to Team 6K. This is Undead and I'm going to be talking about Rockets today. To understand this deck, we first have to understand the skill. At the start of your third turn, you add a Delingerous Dragon from outside of your deck to the graveyard. So that's this dude here, and basically the only relevant effect here is that if a Rocket is special summoned to your field while it's in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field, and that just makes it a lot easier to link someone into Borrowload Dragon himself. But the more relevant part of this skill is that if you control a Rocket monster, once per duel you can return a card from your hand back into the deck and then set a Boot Sector launch from your field to the deck. And then during that turn, you can't special summon monsters except dark monsters. So you'll see in this deck that the only monsters we have are dark monsters anyway. But of course, in order to use this skill, 9 of the cards in our main deck have to be Rockets, and the extra deck does have to contain 1 copy of Borrowload Dragon. Before I move on, I just want to point out that your third turn doesn't mean the third turn of the duel, it means your third turn. So that would be, either turn 5 or turn 6, depending on whether you went first or second. So Boot Sector Launch, that's the card that we're going to be setting our deck to our field. So it is a field spell, you activate it, all Rockets continuously gain 300 attack and defense, makes it nice and buff. Also, you can use one of these 2 effects in a given turn. You can either special summon up to 2 Rockets from your hand to your field in defense mode, or if your opponent controls more monsters than you, you can special summon Rockets from your graveyard up to the difference between your monsters and their monsters. So if they have 1 more monster than you, you can summon 1 Rocket from grave. If they have 3 more monsters than you, can summon all 3 monsters from your grave. So of course, we do play the minimum requirement for the Rockets, but these just so happen to be the right ratios anyway, and I'll get into that. Main Rocket that we're going to be caring about here is Rocket Tracer. This one has the effect that you can target a face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon any Rocket from your deck except for another copy itself, and then you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except dark monsters. That's okay, because the only cards we have in our extra deck are dark monsters anyway. The Rockets, of course, that we're going to be summoning by that effect: Magna Rocket Dragon, Silver Rocket Dragon, and Metal Rocket Dragon. The ones you summon are generally going to be depending on what unique effects that they have. But before I go into those unique effects, I just want to point out that all of these 3 monsters all have the shared effect that on the end phase, if they were destroyed by a card effect and they are in the graveyard, you can special summon another Rocket from your deck of a different name. That is going to be something that's going to come up quite a lot in this deck. For their individual effects, Magna Rocket, if it is targeted by a Link monster, you can quick effect destroy this card and send, non-targeting, any monster on the field to the graveyard. So the fact that it doesn't target and the fact that it doesn't destroy means that if we can somehow get this off, then any of our opponent's monsters are gone, doesn't matter what kind of protection they have. Silver Rocket Dragon, if it is targeted by a monster, you quick effect destroy this card and rip any card of your choice out of their extra deck. So this is a great turn 1 play, because of course they don't have a monster because they are going first. This is going to be great to get rid of something crucial from their extra deck. This is going to be a great turn 1 play for this deck that we're always going to try to do. And then the last one, Metal Rocket Dragon, is also pretty nice. This one, if it is targeted by a Link monster, you can destroy itself to destroy all of your opponent's cards that are in the same column as it. So when you're summoning this one, make sure you're summoning it to the same column as cards in your opponent's field that you want it to destroy. We also have the Quick Launch that is going to be able to summon any Rocket from our deck. It is also not a once per turn, but it does destroy the Rocket that you summoned on the end phase. So the fact that it is not a once per turn is pretty amazing. But these guys' effects, you need to target them with a Link monster in order to get them off, because of course your opponent is not going to target them with a Link monster because they don't want you to get your effects off. So generally what we're trying to do is summon our Link 2 Booster Dragon. It requires 2 Rockets, and once per turn you can target any other face-up monster on the field. It gains 500 attack and defense. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. So what you'll do is you'll summon this, you'll have one of these guys on the field depending on the situation. You'll target them, destroy them, and then you will get the beneficial effect that you want from them. This one to send any monster to the graveyard, this one to destroy cards in columns, and this one to rip a card out of your opponent's extra deck. This one also has the beneficial effect that if it is destroyed, then you get to target a dragon in your grave and re-summon it, and that could even include your extra deck dragons. And then of course the big boss monster of this deck is Borrowload Furious Dragon. It just requires 2 dark dragon type monsters, and you can quick effect target a monster you control and a card your opponent controls and destroy them. And also, you can banish it from your graveyard during your main phase to target a Dark Link monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but it cannot activate its effects this turn. So if your field gets wiped, you can always just use this to bring back a Link, and you'll be back in the races. We're generally going to be trying to summon this with the Dragon's Mirror. It banishes 2 dragons from your grave to summon this basically. And of course, we only have 3 of it, right? And we can't search for it. But really, there's no searchable way for this deck to fusion summon anyway, so we're just going to have to hope that we open this. But if we don't open it, that's not the end of the world. We still have other options we can go for. The best one among those options is Evil Swarm Nightmare. It just requires 2 level 4 dark monsters, and if your opponent special summons a monster, except during the damage step, and detach an Xyz material, change that special summon monster to defense position. And this is not a once per turn, so you can do this twice. And if you can flip down 2 of your opponent's monsters, it's going to be very easy for you to interrupt them, end their turn, and then go in next turn. Since all of our rockets will float on the end phase upon destruction, we also have the Needle Sealing. It's great. If we happen to have Needle Sealing, it's going to be so easy to disrupt our opponent, destroying our own monsters, destroying their monsters at the same time. You will barely even feel the disadvantage because we're just going to be floating into some new rockets on the end phase and going into game next turn. Since we are dark, we can take advantage of the Dark End Dragon because Tracer is of course a tuner. And of course, the Borrow launch skill is going to make it easy for us to eventually go into Borrowload Dragon. But, sometimes we're going to be able to go into Borrowload Dragon turn 1 if our hand is just that good. We also just have the 1 copy of Nightmare Mermaid in case our opponent gives us the Ibly. I am, of course, playing 2 copies of Borrowload Furious Dragon because I very often go into the 2nd copy. We are very good at deck thinning because of all the floating that we have, so we're very likely going to be able to get another copy of Dragon's Mirror. But if you didn't want to play that, you could play another copy of Booster Dragon. It can be quite nice to be able to link summon it, get the same effect off again. I personally have not needed to get a second one because I could technically revive it with my 1st copy of Borrowload Furious Dragon. But how we actually get off any of these things is very much dependent on whether or not we have Rocket Tracer or Quick Launch, or even both, because these are going to be able to summon more rockets from the deck, right? Being able to summon more rockets from the deck allows us to get more plays off, and that's what this deck is built around. It's not going to be very easy for me to explain to you how the deck works. If I'm just showing you the deck itself, it's going to be a lot easier for me if I literally show you the combos. So let's just get into that, shall we? Alright, so basically when you're playing this deck, you're hoping to either have Dragon's Mirror or Needle Sealing in your hand. These are essentially like your non-searchable win conditions. If you have the Dragon's Mirror, of course you'll be able to go into Borrowload Furious Dragon, and that will be a great interruption. But if you have Needle Sealing instead of Dragon's Mirror, the Needle Sealing will also be a fantastic interruption. It also doesn't hurt you that badly, because if you destroy all your monsters, they can all just float on the end phase, right? So your opponent will be a lot more hurt than you would be. And then of course the Dragon's Mirror is going to be the alternative to that. In this particular hand, we have the Needle Sealing. Quick Launch is not a once per turn, so let's just pretend that this was a Tracer and a Quick Launch. So we're going to summon the Tracer, and here is the great play that you can do with Quick Launch. You can activate it, toggle on. Tracer will then target the Quick Launch, because you can do that with spells and traps, and you will summon from deck. And because this guy is going second, I'll summon the Silver Rocket from deck, and then the Tracer will summon anything else from the deck, so I'll just summon a Magna Rocket. And then I will link to using these 2 monsters here, because I want to use the Silver Rocket. That's why I'm not using it as material instead. So then I'm going to use the link, target the Silver Rocket. Silver Rocket will then activate, destroying itself. So let us look at our opponent's extra deck, right? And now that we're looking at our opponent's extra deck, we get to not only know what they're playing, making it easier for us to decide when to use Needle Sealing, but it'll also help us to cripple them, right? Maybe Decode Talker is something that they really need, which of course they do, but if other decks have their other things that Silver Rocket is really going to impact them hard on. So I'm just going to banish his Deco Talker. I'm going to set Needle Sealing. I could summon my Silver Rokket here. I don't feel the need to. On the end phase, Silver Rokket is going to summon another monster from the deck. And I will summon Rokket Tracer here. So I'm just going to point this out here. This might not be the thing that you do every game, but Needle Sealing does require 4 monsters to be on the field in order to activate it. So you might see we have 2 monsters, he has 1 monster. If it would be the best opportunity to destroy their 1 monster and you feel like that would completely end their turn, then here's an option that you can do. You can use your Rokket Tracer to target your booster dragon to destroy it, to summon a Rokket from the deck. So I'll get Metal Rokket from the deck because I haven't used it yet, but the booster dragon will also float into another dragon. So now I do have 3 monsters, even though I initially had 2. So I could use, if I wanted, Needle Sealing. Of course, that might not be the best option for every deck, but it is something that you can do. He's going to summon another monster. I feel like this is a pretty damn good opportunity, so I'm just going to Needle Sealing right off the bat. He's going to end phase, of course. I was right in my assumption that it was a good opportunity, so I'm just going to summon a Magna Rokket from the deck on the end phase, and I will also summon a Tracer from the deck as well. And I don't need to do anything fancy here. He's already lost everything, and I can basically just go for game, right? But I will show you something else that's kind of cool that you can do. I'm going to attack with this one as well. And if I didn't have this monster here, or if I didn't have this monster here, I could attack with both, then use Rokket Tracer to destroy the other one that attacked to get another monster and attack again. Okay, so I've shown you what you can do with Needle Sealing, but if you have Dragon's Mirror instead, here's what you can do. So I'm going to summon the Rokket Tracer, activate the skill, put back this because I do want to use the Silver Rokket Dragon. Going to activate that, activate the field spell, make sure to say no to Rokket Tracer because it will ask you to activate as soon as you activate your field spell. Going to activate the field spell, say no to the Tracer again, summon the Silver Rokket, and then you can use the Tracer to destroy the field spell to summon another monster from deck. Doesn't matter which one necessarily, I just tend to use one that I haven't used just yet. I'm going to go into the link to, which will target the Silver Rokket Dragon to make it gain 500. The Silver Rokket will chain itself and I can get rid of a card in their extra deck again. Deco Talker, like I explained just before. Then we can use the Dragon's Mirror. When we use the Dragon's Mirror here, we will have 3 dragons engraved, the ones that we used. This is the one that destroyed itself to get rid of something here. Like, maybe if you went second, maybe you would have gone into this instead to get rid of your opponent's card. But regardless, whichever one that you targeted using your link to, that monster, that being Silver Rokket in this case, is going to be the one dragon that you do not banish for your Dragon's Mirror. So we're going to leave that engraved, and we'll see why that is in a second. Going to summon our Barload Furious Dragon, and then on our end phase, the Silver Rokket Dragon will activate to summon another monster from deck. We're usually going to summon Tracer here, because there's quite a nice little interaction between Furious Dragon and Rokket Tracer. Alright, so here's the interaction here. Of course, I don't think that the opponent can be destroyed by card effects because of its effect right now, but I don't want my Tracer to be gone for nothing, so I'm going to activate my Furious Dragon, target the Tracer, target the opponent's card. Usually this is going to be our interruption. Tracer will then be able to chain, targeting itself, so that we can summon another Rokket from the deck, and it will be as if we didn't even lose anything at all. From here, it's not going to be that hard to kill the opponent. I can just, I just happen to get a level 4, so I can go into Malevolent Sin, get rid of my opponent's monster. If I didn't happen to draw a level 4, there would be other ways I could just get over him. By battle, of course. I could even use the Booster Dragon to boost my attack like this. Another cool thing that you can do is attack with the Furious or attack with the booster, right? And then if they have another card, you can use the Furious to destroy the booster after it attacks, to then, of course, the booster will then revive another dragon, and you know, you'll be able to attack an additional time. Sometimes there are going to be cases that you don't open a Needle Ceiling or a Dragon's Mirror, and I will admit those cases are going to be few and far between. You are almost always going to have one of these or both of them, which is even better. But you know, sometimes you don't have them, so we're going to pretend in this particular situation that I don't have Dragon's Mirror. I'm going to shuffle back the Dragon's Mirror to get my field spell. The field spell will activate, of course. I'm going to get my 2 other rockets on the field. And here we actually still have quite a bit of options. Of course, when something is summoned off of Boot Sector launch, it isn't negated, so we could use this Rocket Tracer as material and still use this one. It's really damn good. But here we can just kind of break the opponent's field a bit, right? So I'm going to go into Malevolent Sin using these 2. And of course, he has a Decode Talker that points to something, so he could protect himself, right? So I could use my Rocket Tracer to destroy my field spell to get another non-tuner to go into my Synchro, and have that Synchro be negated, or have my Malevolent Sin be negated. Regardless, one of my removal cards is going to be negated at the end of the day. So I'm just going to use the Malevolent Sin, right? Detach a material, target the Decode Talker. He's going to negate it immediately. I'm going to Rocket Tracer, destroy my own Malevolent Sin so I can keep my field spell. Of course, the Malevolent Sin will still be negated, but the difference here is that I still have my field spell. Maybe it can be used for a follow-up next turn, right? So I'm going to go into my Synchro. My Synchro can remove his Decode Talker, and this isn't the best thing ever, but it's definitely something. I also have a Lance that might, you know, protect me or remove one of his monsters by making their monsters smaller. You know, things can still happen if you don't have the broken cards in the deck. There's a bunch of other cards here in my favorite section that you could play if you wanted. Some really good stuff. Steel Swarm Roach is pretty amazing depending on the format. I just choose to use Evil Swarm Nightmare because it hits more decks, you know what I mean? Of course, Link Disciple is another great replacement for Nightmare Mermaid. It's really up to your own personal preference. Other staples like Forbidden Chalice, Crackdown, IDP, Book of the Moon, MST. Another fusion spell that you could potentially use instead of the Dragon's Mirrors. Something nice about this is instead of just simply using monsters you control or in your hand as fusion material, it also destroys the monsters. So you could destroy your materials, and on end phase they will float into something. So there is something nice about that. I just like to be able to use the Grave because it's basically free. You could also use Quad Barrel Dragon. It could be a nice little removal for your opponent's stuff. Other Dark Xyz you could be using, you know what I mean? Another Dark Synchro you could be using. There's a bunch of other cards here that are great. I'm not here to tell you how to build your deck, I'm only here to teach you how to play it. But there is no substitute for experience, so let's just go ahead and go into these replays so you can better understand how the deck functions. Alright, we happen to be going second here, and the opponent is playing Fluffals. You might know about Fluffals that if they're going first, they're basically just trying to set up a Kiteroid survival play. And that's exactly what they're going to be doing here. Great for them, they're not going to be summoning much, but we happen to have the perfect hand of Rocket Tracer plus Quick Launch. The best combo ever. Rocket Tracer targets Quick Launch, and now you turn 2 cards into 3 bodies on the field, which is great. And we summon the Silver Rocket, right? We're going to turn these 2 into a Link 2. The Link 2 Booster Dragon is going to target the Silver Rocket, so we can look at their extra deck, and we know for a fact that Fluffals only have 1 monster that can get over an untargetable boss monster, right? So we're going to completely get rid of that one. This one, right? It just becomes big enough. Its attack boosting effect, it can just be bigger than 3000. Great, right? But we're going to be able to use our Boot Sector launch, summon another monster from hand. We're going to go Dragon's Mirror here. We're going to banish everything except for the Silver Rocket, because we still do want our Silver Rocket to float on the end phase. But we're not even going to keep Borrowload Furious Dragon on the field. We're going to turn them all into Borrowload Dragon. Now that we have Burrow Dragon on the field, of course they're going to Kairoid us to, you know, keep their life points up. And on the end phase, our Silver Rokket Dragon is going to summon a Rokket Tracer onto the field. They have not realized yet, by the way, that we have banished their Frightfur Sabertooth, and I think that they're going to keep trying to play, and then they're eventually going to realize that they don't even have it in their extra deck. But we're also going to use our Tracer to summon a Magna Rokket Dragon, because Burrow Dragon has the effect that once per turn quick effect, you can target any face-up on the field, it loses 500 attack and defense, the opponent can't respond to that, and we can even target our own monsters. So we can, on the opponent's turn as a quick effect, target our Magna Rokket to destroy the Magna Rokket and remove any of our opponent's monsters. So we're just going to do some Fluffal combos. He activates his Frightfur fusion. It's at that point that he realizes that the only fusion that he could use to out the Burrow Dragon is not in his extra deck anymore. So he just times me out. Alright, the opponent is playing Dragunity here. He's not going to be doing amazing turn 1 stuff, but he is going to be able to get off a protective field, because the Dragunity boss monster, if it is destroyed, will synchro summon a monster from the extra deck. So he's going to be able to summon from the extra deck something that can boost its own attack and make it awkward for us to attack into it. Also, he'll be unaffected by trap cards. You know, not something that I care too deeply about, but I'm gonna, you know, get off that Rokket Tracer, use the skill, use the field spell to summon the Silver Rokket from my hand. He's gonna MST it, however, but in response to that MST, I'm gonna use Rokket Tracer to destroy the boost sector, so I still get another monster on the field. Now I'm going to be able to normal summon because I haven't done that yet. I can go into Booster Dragon. Booster Dragon can target my Metal Rokket. Metal Rokket will destroy both cards in this zone, in this column I mean. He's going to summon the Gaibulg. Gaibulg can remove a Winged Beast from grave to gain that attack. And I didn't feel like looking through the grave, but he did have a Winged Beast with 1800, and I know that if I attacked into it at all, it wouldn't be the best situation ever. But I'm going to use the Dragon's Mirror, making sure to banish the things that I didn't destroy with the link right. I'm going to attack. I'm not going to attack into this guy because I know he can boost himself, and then on the end phase, Metal Rokket will summon another monster from deck. Almost always going to summon Rokket Tracer because it can essentially turn into anything else. Here, he's going to attack into me, and I feel perfectly free to destroy him now. Going to destroy the Rokket Tracer. Rokket Tracer will destroy itself to summon something else from deck, and he's just going to scoop it up. And that's pretty much how the deck goes. Alright, we're going first this time. We do, since we are going first, we're going to be trying our best to go for the Silver Rokket play. Of course, the best combo in the deck is Rokket Tracer and Quick Launch. Is going to turn us 3 monsters. Going to link off and use the Booster Dragon, targeting the Silver Rokket, and Silver Rokket is going to have a look at his extra deck and banish the most important card from it, which is Galaxy Eye Cypher Dragon. If he can't go into Galaxy Eye Cypher Dragon, then he can't rank up into his other Galaxy Eyes Xyz either. And then on the end phase, going to summon the Rokket Tracer. I do have the Needle Ceiling, so I could use my Tracer to destroy this. He's going to go off. I'm going to target this, summon this from deck. Booster is going to resummon something, and before he can Xyz summon, I'm going to Needle Ceiling, getting rid of everything. But on the end phase, of course, I'm still going to get my floating off, and that's pretty much GG. Normal summon, attack, 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 but he has Trap Hole of Spikes. But it doesn't matter because I'm going to use Rokket Tracer, destroying the Silver Rokket, and have an additional attack anyway. Easy money. So this was the 10th game that I won in a row in one of my win streaks. This guy's playing the Fossil deck, pretty damn good. This trap here is basically like a Book of Moon but for fossils. So I happen to have the field spell, great for me. I can just summon 2 from hand. I unfortunately do not have the the Rokket Tracer, but that's okay. I do have the Dragon's Mirror. So I'm going to go into Booster Dragon here, because Booster Dragon, even if I don't have something to target to gain 500, is still good with alongside the fusion, because if the opponent has like a board wipe or something, Booster will resummon my fusion, right? So gonna go into Borrowload Furious. He's going to go Rock Bombardment, sending a Tackle Crusader, which on a new chain will target one of my monsters and change it to a face down defense position. Great for him. It turns off my interruption, but I'll be able to beat over him. Great for him. He's going to be able to go for Shell Knight. Nice little defensive play there. I can't get rid of his back row. Thankfully for me, I do top deck into a Rokket. I summon it to the zone here where both of his cards are, and then I can target it to destroy both cards in the same zones. And he can't respond to the Booster Dragon's effect too, so that's definitely something important to note. So yeah, going to destroy both cards in here. He's going to be able to search for a Gaia Plate. He happens to be able to survive with his copy of Kiteroid, but I am going to be able to summon a Rokket Tracer from the deck. He happens to top deck anything that can get him a Fossil Fusion. He summons a monster with his Fossil Fusion. And I think here that he's trying to bait out my Furious Dragon, but I don't necessarily care about that. I'll just let it happen. But he is going to summon his this guy, and this guy is pretty threatening because half the attack and defense of any monster that battles with this card, so this guy can basically beat over anything because it halves their attack and defense basically if it battles them. So I'm just going to get rid of that. Tracer of course chained to it, so I basically lose nothing, and I'm going to summon the Silver Rokket because when it's on the field at the same time as Boot Sector Launch, it'll gain 300, therefore being bigger than this. And he's just going to scoop it up. So here I'm going first. I do have the Rokket Tracer. It's great for me. I'm going to be able to summon one monster from my hand. Might be considered a misplay. Maybe I should have normal summoned a Magna Rokket and then special summon both of these, but I don't feel particularly that I need to have 3 on the field because I'm going to have 3 due to the boot sector being destroyed by Rokket Tracer. I can just have this as a follow-up. I'm going to get my third monster out, which is of course going to be the Silver Rokket, going to turn that into a Booster Dragon. Booster Dragon of course is going to destroy this, get rid of the most important card of the next deck. Without this, they can't rank up into their other more important things. On end phase, I'll summon this. This isn't the best board in the world, of course. I don't have a Needle Ceiling and I don't have a Dragon's Mirror, but of course I'm going to win anyway because I basically got rid of that win condition, and if he tries to destroy me at all, I'm going to be able to float into things anyway, so that's great for me. Yeah, he just scoops it up because he knows that he has nothing left. But yeah, man, that's how you play Rockets. Leave a comment if you have any questions about how the deck runs and I'll be sure to answer you. You can definitely feel free to build the deck differently. I just feel like this is the most optimal way to build it. I was able to get like multiple 10-game win streaks and higher. I think the highest win streak I got with the deck was 15. I was able to DLV 20 with this in the KC Cup, which is pretty fun. This deck is just a lot of fun. Like, it's not the best deck in the world, but you know, you'd be fooled into thinking this is the best deck in the world if you played against it. It really does a lot of stuff. But yeah, let me know how you feel about the deck. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you're new, share with a friend, and we'll see you next time.